The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of ParaX, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you and daunting me. It's just the ghost of you and me. It's just the smoke and gasoline. It's just the ghost of you and me. Of you and me.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody tonight?
Tonight's episode is going to be a good one. This is going to be a very interesting show for you guys. On Easter, I had the privilege of interviewing the Exorcist team from the Travel Channel's Ghost Town Terror TV show. The Exorcist team is made up of Father Mike Ross, who is a dear friend of mine, and he is the exorcist on our East Coast team Vapor, and the exorcist for the Tales from the Abyss TV show that we do. And with him was Aveline Phoenix, who is like a paranormal scout, essentially. She is a sensitive and a wonderfully nice lady who goes out and checks out these locations for him, and then a lot of times will go with him when he does the exorcisms on different cases. I don't really want to call her a psychic, but she's kind of a sensitive and an empath. She can feel the emotions that the spirits or whatever it is that's there is feeling. And she comes in really, really handy. Let's put it that way. And so I had the opportunity to sit down with them and do an interview. And it's like 37 minutes, something like that. It was a really, really good conversation and a fun time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play that interview for you that I recorded on Easter. And then on the other end of that, we'll come back and comment on it. Hello, Mike and Alavine. Thank you for joining us. We're going to start this off with an easy one. Tell the audience a little bit about yourselves and your experience in the paranormal.
Okay, so my name is Alavine Phoenix, and actually professionally I'm an entrepreneur. I have several businesses, including a gun shop. I'm a gemologist and a jewelry designer, etc. I'm actually a sensitive, so I have been given the gifts of spiritual discernment. 99% of the people that know me do not know anything about this because it's not something that defines me. I have the gift of clairsentience, which means that I can feel other people's emotions, and I can feel people's emotions who are with us and people who are deceased. And I also am claircognizant, which means I know things that I really wouldn't have any way of knowing. It's not something I can turn off and on. It doesn't happen all of the time. But I believe it is a gift given to me by the Lord. I use it to help people. And I don't charge for it. I don't exploit it. And again, it doesn't define me. I don't do party tricks with it or anything like that. And I've worked with Father Ross on some occasions. And I am sort of a paranormal scout, I would call it, for you. If we, have a case, I usually go in first. I walk around completely by myself so that there's nothing to disturb the energy, and I just kind of feel out what's there.
Right.
Yep. And I've been friends with Father Ross for a very, very long time. So we are friends from way back.
Exactly. I'm an Anglican presbyter. I'm a priest, Anglican priest. Presently am a pastor at a church, St. Paul's in Leitersburg, Maryland. And I am one of the two diocesan exorcists for the EMC. And And I've been doing that for, I guess, a number of years now. I don't even know. It's one of those things that you fall into on accident. And had you known more about it before you got into it, you would have never done it. But once you're in it, you really can't get out. And so here I am now, and I have no idea how many cases I've done. It's been a bunch because I never kept any records. I always thought, well, this was just going to be the last one. And I don't charge anything for doing any of that. You know, God's grace is free. So anything that costs me too much, that out of my own pocket, of course, I need to at least have to break even if it's a big travel thing. But right, so that's me.
Your episode of Ghost Town Terror just aired. Can you run us through that case?
What happened with that was normally they work with another guy that does that, and one of the bishops that they normally would call for that, but because of the whole COVID thing, and I guess he didn't feel really great about flying, and he didn't, want to wear a mask in that for that long flight out that way from where he was coming from. Wasn't real comfortable with it. The other guy that was actually closer out there actually had COVID, so they recommended me. So they called me to go out there and check all that out, and I said I wasn't going to go unless I was able to grab her, because I can't feel the kinds of things that she can feel, and she's run through this kind of stuff before. So it was good to have some kind of familiar backup too, and especially when having to go through the ritual, if that was going to be necessary, that you need someone to do responses and that kind of stuff. So so they said okay, so we went out there and we checked out that case and what was going on. They didn't really tell us anything. So when I got the call, I told her that there was a case in Montana, and she immediately said the person's name, which I immediately. I didn't even go into anything about the case, and so that was immediately right off the bat.
I knew her name was Karen right away, and we didn't know anything at all. We just knew that there was a case out there, and at that point we didn't know anything. So it was pretty quick. A few days we had to get ready and go. Very little time. So we went out there and we met with the crew in the lobby, and we had a quick discussion about what they had. Some of they still didn't give us everything. They didn't give us all of the facts even after we had left. So they gave, and that's good. We don't need that, because I feel like, much like when I go into a house and I want to be by myself and I don't want people talking around me, it's easier to just walk in there with nothing and go from there. And I think when we got there, right away we could definitely feel some energy. In
the evening, I didn't feel anything. During the day when we actually got to the site, it was fine. It felt like a nice, beautiful place. The mountains out there, everything was pretty stunning. The town itself was really cool. It wasn't until later that evening. We walked around. There was weird stuff. The property was.
I felt it wasn't bad. It wasn't really, really dark. It got darker as it got darker.
Right.
If that makes sense. And being down in the gulch, it's almost like I was telling him, it when you watch those scary movies and they have the smoke machines pushing smoke into the cemeteries, it was kind of like that, where you felt things rolling down. You felt the energy, the dark energy rolling down into the gulch as the sun went down.
Yeah. And there was dinosaur dinosaur ducks.
The town is really awesome. It's very cute. We the first thing we did, and even before the sun went down, is we walked around the town. We walked up to each one of the buildings. Something that's super notable is the log cabin. Both of us right away picked up the log cabin had some major energy coming out of it, and we were told that we could look around, we could look in things, and we went to open the door of the log cabin. I think I tried first. You tried first? Yeah, I have a picture of you trying. And he goes, "Oh, this must be locked." And then, so I went up to it and I tried, and it wouldn't let us in. and then a few minutes later, a cast member just
Or crew,
walked,
yeah.
or crew walked
Just
right
right
in.
in.
And it was curious that it didn't want us coming in there, which I thought was really
It
curious.
was weird because it felt like, I don't know if any of you guys have ever been in an office building and walked into the elevator machine room where you can feel, just all that stuff that's super high voltage. It just felt like that outside of that room. But that's stuff that doesn't make for good TV. So why would they include any of that stuff? We told them about all that.
Yeah.
There's definitely something on that property. There's no question about that.
Yeah, and I think we both agree that it's twofold. It's coming from the land, so there could have been things there prior.
Right.
It's coming from the land, and it's coming from some of the buildings, for sure.
Right.
And
I wish we had more time.
Yeah.
Instead of just a couple hours that night.
It's important to note that the crew was there for 2 months, 3 months,
I don't know. It's
2
been a
or
while.
3 months,
It's been a
and
while,
we
yeah.
were there for a night. So, and actually, there was a whole lot of stuff that involved us that was cut out. So we got there, and you immediately walked up to Karen, and you
Shook hands.
which I think right away we kind of knew that there was no attachment because.
Yeah, there was no apprehension, no
Right.
uneasiness or any of that, or it was one extreme or the other. When you meet the person that they believe is out there specifically to perform, the ritual of exorcism on you, there's the normal response is either anxiety, because it knows, if there's it knows that there's something there, or they completely avoid you, But she was very nice. The whole thing she was very sweet.
Do you feel that the show gave an accurate depiction of the events as they transpired?
Okay, so
Everything that you saw happened.
yeah, everything. I mean, we weren't there to witness what happened when we weren't there. What we can say, we can only speak to what we witnessed when we were there, and we did know right away, not just from her lack of apprehension of shaking your hand, but we felt right away that she didn't have an attachment. Now that said, I don't believe that everyone can feel that as we did. So it seems simple to us, and no, she doesn't have one. But there's always
It can come and go too, so you
yes,
never rule it out completely.
Yes, as he said. But so I think, and one of the things that I spoke to, and this show also said this in the end, was demons come in different forms. There's the biblical demon that you're used to dealing with, and then there are people have their own personal demons. So I think that there was definitely some energy. We had some demons in the other room. There was some energy there that was very could have had some history to it. There was a lot going on there. It's a very interesting place. There was a lot of footage that was shot after the rite, and that was not used. That had some that I felt was really interesting. The house/church. There was some really heavy stuff in that house and church, really heavy, and it shook me. And I don't get shook easy because
that house was infested.
Yeah,
big time, yeah.
I'll walk into a place by myself knowing full well that there could be something in there, and I'm okay with it because I have the Lord with me. But I did not expect there was something upstairs that.
After seeing everything else and everything being kind of moderate, when
That was-
you walk in
yeah.
that place, it was like,
Right.
yeah, when you're just expecting it to be another place in this place, that
Right.
property, and you walk into that place and it was like,
Yeah,
There was a lot.
that had a lot going on for sure.
What kinds of activity did you pick up while you were there, and where was it located?
Well, one thing I noticed when I went through there, when I walked through the house, I went into, we asked Karen where she had witnessed some things, and she said in her bedroom. So I walked back there by myself because I wanted to feel it with just a cameraman. And we walked into her bedroom, and I felt towards the wall and towards the ceiling like a lot of heaviness. So once I walked back out into the house, I walked upstairs to find out what was above her room, and it ended up being this like attic area, cubby area. So when I walked to the top of the steps and I opened the door to the cubby area, and I just kind of like poked my head in there, and when I opened the door, I felt it, but it wasn't anything that was jarring. But when I kind of put my face in there, it really hit me. Whatever was in there really, to the point where I backed out really quick. I hit my head on the doorway, and I just got, I got down the stairs pretty quick. So there was something in there. Now, again, we were there for one night. The crew was there for at least
several weeks,
2 months, maybe more. So, we didn't, and that was the last night of filming that we were there. So there was no time to delve into whatever was in that house, but there was something in there. And when I say something, I mean negative energy. There was a presence, not a demon.
Yeah, normally when we would go and do a case, like it was just us looking at something, like she would do all this background and do a property search and investigate all the people that have ever lived there and their grandmothers and what their pets were. I mean, it's just ridiculous how deep, and then, well, with vapor too, you guys know that's one of the things that you guys do really well is investigate all of the background and try to rule out anything that any doors, either with the property or with any of the people that have ever lived there before. So same thing, and unfortunately, we didn't even get the whole story as to what was going on. They said that there was a woman that was out there that they thought had an attachment, and they were reasonably sure of it, and they gave a list of things, and a lot of them were classic signs, like some of the staring and the losing some time, and some of the divisiveness that's common with that kind of attachment, things going on in the area. The dead things that they were finding, infestations of flies and that kind of stuff. But so it was worth it to come out and take a look and talk to her and see what was going on. And
anytime there's a family involved,
kids.
It becomes that's your job. You feel responsible for if you can help, you help. Especially when there's children involved, and that the other case we had where the child was getting physically sick. Mm-hmm. Those types of things you're concerned with. So you want to make sure that if there is something, if you can do something about it, that you do. And
right.
And you really don't know for 100% sure, not just like he said, not just when you get out there. We were fairly certain that she didn't have an attachment, but like he said, they can come and go. So, as he said in the show, you have to poke it.
Right. Sometimes that's the only way, because I've never had a case where somebody didn't also have a, some type of disorder that, it could be hiding behind, or it could be explained away on, a lot of the things that demons are attracted to. They're like rats, they're going to be attracted to anything that they can hide behind, because, a really good demon doesn't want you to know it's there. You can do a lot more damage that way.
What did you think of Karen and the family?
I thought that they were all very nice. Karen was awesome. We shared a taste in the same music,
Mm-hmm. I think they're a really sweet family. I feel as though I felt as though they had been through a lot.
There were PTSD.
I felt as though there was some definite PTSD there. I felt their struggles. I felt a lot from Karen. I felt a lot of pain. I felt a lot of regret. I felt a lot of emotions coming from her that she was carrying around, that she did talk about. I can also say that, you know, she's got a great little business there. It's a great little, she's turned it into a bed and breakfast, and, you know, so she seems like a good businesswoman. And she, you know, it hopefully, things are going well with that, but I know she had bought the ranch prior to COVID, so, you know, there had been some, you know, struggles with, I guess, getting it off the ground a little bit. So I think there was a lot there that that she was dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there was a puppy, so the family had a puppy. But yeah, there were all.
There was a cat.
There was a cat. The cat was really cool.
The cat was great.
The cat was great.
I liked the cat.
Murder mittens.
I have a selfie with the cat. I have a selfie with. We'll post the selfie with the cat later.
Murder mittens.
Murder mittens.
Is this a location that you feel deserves more investigation?
Yes, I would love to actually, if I had the opportunity to go there and stay in one of the rooms, you know, the little cabins, because the way the bed and breakfast is, it's like a town, and they're all made to look like different buildings in a town, like a jail and a saloon and
Laundry, a log cabin,
right,
whatever, yeah.
And we got some really cool pictures where the crew was using the jail to set up, and Neil, I think, right, one of the camera guys, I think that was his name.
Yeah.
Love that guy. He was a great guy. And him and one of the other guys, a light guy, I think, stayed in the jail area. We got some pictures in there. It was really cool.
We have some great pictures that you guys can post afterwards. We'll post under the live stream some great shots.
Yeah, I would definitely, if you guys, James, if you guys ever wanted to go out there, it would be a nice trip. I would love to go actually do that and investigate ourselves, you know. But yeah, the property, definitely something at the property.
Honestly, like we walked through
Types
Butte,
of entities.
and yeah, we walked through Butte, and actually that, you know, that whole town had some energy. You know, for some reason, I've been in a lot of west towns. I've been all over Wyoming. And those towns really have a lot of energy. I mean, a lot of little old towns have energy. I live in Frostburg, Maryland. This town is, I tell people, it's like magic. There is energy everywhere in this town. So I think certain areas, and I think all areas have energy, but I think maybe because the smaller towns, there's not as many people, the energy is more apparent.
Maybe. Well, wasn't it a coal town or a mining town?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, there's a lot of injury.
It was, just like this is a mining town as well.
Yeah.
So.
What kind of entities do you think were there?
We weren't there for long enough for me to actually say. I mean, do I think anything was demonic? Inconclusive is what my take on it. But I know that some of the paranormal people and, you know, paranormal folks that I've worked with in the past think that I'm kind of a fuddy-duddy because I'm not real quick to say that that's a demon. I'm really eager to rule things out. I don't think that demons are hiding in every shadow and every bush or any of that.
Yeah, we're like the top of the
negative net and
skeptical paranoia. No, we're paranormal people. I'm the same way. Like I want to rule something out. I don't want to believe that it's a demon. I think more that a lot of that stuff, excuse me, is energy and not
or
something like that. Or departed spirit or something like that. So, I mean, if and I know I've been reading a lot of comments from people watching the show, and there's a lot of people that love it. There's a lot of people that don't think it's real. But I can tell you, without a doubt, that what we experienced, and I can't speak for what everyone else that was there, I can't speak for what they experienced. I can only say what Father Ross and I experienced. And I'll say the same thing that I said to the producer when we talked, and I said, you know, we don't make things up. We don't lie. We're doing this in service to the Lord, and there's no other agenda for us. So we're going to be straight shooters. If we don't feel something, we don't see something, we're not going to tell you we do. You know, obviously we're not involved with the show, so we have no reason to say anything that's untrue. And that said, what we've discussed already, and we were there one night, it is absolutely true. We have absolutely no reason to make any of that up. And
what do you think may have been there, if anything? Do you think it was a departed spirit or what? I mean, I think there might have been intelligence to it. That's the thing, is the way it kind of rolled in off the hills. It's hard to say. Like, something was with the land. I don't know what happened in the past.
I haven't experienced that yet. The way that rolled in, and you and I had been talking about. Is it like is there something in the actual land itself? Is there geology that's making us feel that way? Like it felt very different.
Intense.
It was very it was saturating.
What about in the house? What do you think that was in that cubby where you knocked your head? Because it felt mean. It felt like there was something.
There was
a negative,
there was anger.
Right.
There was anger up there.
Yeah.
I feel a lot of fear a lot of the times. Fear is one of the first emotions, and again, I don't pick up. It's like spirits can't talk to me. I will feel what they're feeling, and with their feelings and a little bit of the claircognizance, I can usually piece together what's going on. And I feel a lot of fear in different places, but I felt anger in that house. There was anger, and very bold anger, which is like why it startled me.
It was a politician.
It probably was.
Probably was.
But I cannot describe, and that's a great question, because can you describe that?
We have all had cases that have not exactly worked out how we wanted them to. Do you feel good about how this case went?
Yes and no. Personally, for me, I think that I wish we would have had more time, and we weren't rushed right into trying to do a diagnostic exorcism on her in that way. I wish we would have been able to talk with her and work with them a little bit more and find out some more of the history and dig more deeply into the psychology, because that's, the ritual of exorcism is just one small piece of getting rid of a demon, a very small piece at that. Most people see that as it's, like an exorcist is a wizard or something like that, and it's just, that's not the way it works. The individual, the person that has the attachment, does most of the work. We just put the mouth. And unless they're willing to do all of the other things that are necessary in order to make it go and to keep it gone, then it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, if you can get it to leave momentarily, it's just going to come back way worse. So I wish we would have had more time.
Was there anything that they cut out that you wish would have made the show?
I think that there could potentially be room for more. I know that they cut a lot, so they could almost do more episodes or another season and kind of go back to a lot of the stuff they cut, because I feel like if they were there for a really long time, and although I felt like the show, it flowed in some senses, in other senses it jumped around a lot, and I don't think they could help that. They were shoving
different pieces of the night together.
They were trying to get the key components of this case into 6 episodes.
Right.
And I, at being out there as long as they were, and just the stuff that I felt like we uncovered in one night.
Opened up, asked way more questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like, I don't know how, I felt like they did a good job with it. It was an impossible thing to do, I'm sure, is to shove all that in there. And honestly, it should have been, my opinion, it should have been more episodes, because it went from, so at some points it went from one subject to the other and didn't really answer questions.
Right.
Where
too much, yeah.
But like I said, in their defense, they 6 episodes just wasn't enough to cover all of what they covered.
Right.
So,
and also a lot of the real stuff that we saw and experienced there doesn't make for a lot of really good TV. You know,
Right.
they don't always do the parlor tricks. You know, if there is something that's demonic there, the parlor tricks are pretty rare. You know, they don't always make the lights flick on and off and make the things move and throw books and rocks and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the breezes and stuff. Like, I mean, and that's the thing. I think that's one thing that I think a lot of people, if you're not in this world and you don't...
In this world? The field? You're in this world.
In the
You're out of
field.
this world, man.
And you don't, like, the things that we've experienced that were real, they're not...
They don't make great TV.
They don't make good TV. But you're not going to see the cases like the cases you've worked on, and there were some terrifying cases based on, you know, a lot of the things you've told me and a lot of the things I know about you. I mean, absolutely terrifying. And these are not things that you're ever going to see on TV. You are not.
It's like reading a book, reading like from a good author, reading a description, like when somebody walks into the room, and if it's a really good author and they describe the scene in that room, and you can feel it. You can
Right.
feel everything that's going on in the room. You know how all the lights are bouncing off the glass and all that stuff, versus how that's portrayed in a movie.
Correct.
And then you're crammed into seeing it through the producer's eyes, and that's it.
And the editors, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge thing, because I mean, let's just look at the perspective of, like, I'm assuming that the editor is not somebody who was out there. It was probably somebody who's putting it together after the fact.
Right.
So how could they possibly know that flow? And what, you know what I mean? So there's a disconnect.
Right.
So I guess what I'm saying is, you know, the real cases that are just horrifying are not good. Like you said, they're not going to make good TV.
Yeah, the ones that actually where they do the parlor tricks and they make the lights and they do all the things, you know, the moving stuff and all that. Those really aren't the most scary ones. You know, that stuff is obvious. When they do the Hollywood stuff is what I call it. You know, the Hollywood and parlor tricks. That's really not even all
You
that
mean the
terrifying.
demons, when the demons do
right? Yeah, they're not. Those really aren't the scariest ones. It's the other ones. It's the creepy things that are like, well, wait a minute, didn't I just leave this room, and now all of a sudden this one little thing is different, or
The face that slowly changes in front of your eyes.
yes, like the one case that, and I know Andy was there. I don't think James was with us yet, but the one where it was the couple, and we exorcised them for 13 hours that day. It was a very long, brutal day, and me and the other diocesan exorcists worked together on them, and there was lots of people there praying, and his face, I mean, bone structure and everything changed. And it's not like something that we even saw. At least I didn't see it there. I wasn't facing him. I don't think anyone else saw it there either, but it was only when we were watching the footage of what happened and listening to the weird audios that are behind everything when that was happening, and that you just see his whole bone structure and everything changed. But yeah, it's the little things that are like that. The one case, Andy, if you're watching this, that we did, it was in Virginia, that there was all this weird stuff that was going on with the property out there, and as we were cleansing the property, going down the one side of the property line by that tree line, and there was a chicken coop down at the end of that property. And as we got closer to that, even though we started down there and the chickens were fine, as we started coming back down that line, they're all getting violent and attacking each other. And so it's those weird little things like that, or a very sudden infestation of something, and then it immediately goes away. And of course, you know,
Or the smells.
the smell, yeah. Like you walk into a room and there's like no one smoking a cigar, and now it smells like a cigar or a dead animal. And you leave the room and you're like, hey guys, check this out, smell this. And you come back and it's gone. You know? It's
Or you just get a whiff of it while you're casually talking to someone, like yesterday with us.
Right.
And you're like, okay.
Right. Or a shadow that doesn't look right. There's like a weird shadow that you see out of the corner of your eye and you look and it's not there. Or a shadow, again in that same case, Andy, where the shadows in that building didn't even look like they were matching with the people. So I mean, we were there for 5 minutes and we were like, this house needs a radon check. Just to
Yeah,
be
so
able to
I mean,
search
those
them.
are things that are real, and you're not going to be able to portray those. You're not going to catch them on any kind of camera usually, or yeah.
In your opinion, was the activity primarily connected to the location, or was it connected to Karen and the family?
I don't think we had enough time to say conclusively whether or not there was actually anything tied to. If I had to guess initially, I would say primarily the property. If I was forced, if someone had a gun to my head and said, "You got to make a decision," I would say probably the property and the family was getting harassed. But there was enough. There was doors open everywhere, man.
I would say that, and I'm going to use some of your own quotes. I would say that definitely the buildings and some the property. And as you always say, when things are not right in your life and you're leaving those doors open, things are going to walk through them.
Right.
So I think at that point it became all three. Because it was, like I said, it was very saturating once it got dark. And I felt immediately, the buildings. I felt stuff from the buildings when we first got there. I didn't really feel much from Karen. I felt what she felt, but I didn't feel any demonic attachment. But I know that when we were doing the rite of exorcism, I felt anguish. Just anguish. She did not want to be in that position.
I definitely think that they affected not just her, but the whole family. And I don't think necessarily that was through an attachment of any kind. Maybe, it's inconclusive. I keep coming back to that. But if there was, it's something that one quick run through the ritual isn't going to do anything. It's going to be more of an investment than that. And I told Karen that night that these are some things that she needed to do in order to help if there was something there to pry it loose and all that and all that. So it's hard to say. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know.
I agree. We weren't there long enough to make a conclusive.
I mean, we were talking to some of the people on the crew and the team. I don't know if Tim was in there. Might have been Sarah, and then the other the tiny one, whatever her name was. Sapphire, yeah, the tiny one. She was so nice. If you ever see this, Sapphire, I apologize. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that we were talking about. Is there were so many possibilities because there was so much dysfunction.
There's a lot going on
from there. Everyone, there's dysfunction in everybody's history. So it's hard to. It's really hard to thin through that.
We are doing this interview on Resurrection Day. So since it's Easter, do you have a special Easter message for the radio audience?
Yeah, he is risen. He is risen indeed. And the most shocking and glorious thing that has ever happened in the entire universe was celebrated today. There is nothing else that's more important than the resurrection of Christ. And I think that whether or not someone is already a believer, I think especially if you're not a believer, I think you need to take the time, take a look at the actual evidence of all of that. And you have to make that decision. You have to look at the evidence and the overwhelming likelihood that those events actually did happen, and then you're going to have to make a real decision on that because nothing else matters. I mean, that's the only thing that has eternal consequences is what you're going to do with that empty tomb and that risen Lord. I preached about that this morning at the church, and there literally is nothing else that's more important than that. So that would be my Resurrection Day question, James.
I want to thank you guys so much for joining us. It was a real pleasure speaking with you, and I will talk to you later. God bless you, my friends.
Yeah, so thanks, James. And if there's anything else that anyone thinks of, I know that Vapor is going to be doing some things coming up here, so keep an eye on the Vapor page because we have some things going on and a couple of other cases that we can't really talk about just yet, but again, the only thing that matters is making a decision about that tomb.
So that was a very interesting conversation. There's several points in there that I thought were worth talking about. And a couple of these I'm going to ask Old Boy to comment on as well. The first point was that they talked a lot about there being something attached to the land there. So this is something that could have went back a long time. And it's interesting to me because you have that dynamic of there being activity that is affecting people that live there to the point to where they're being attacked and all kinds of bad stuff's happening to them. But it's not necessarily an attachment to the person. It could simply be an attachment to the land. It could be something that is there from ancient times. You know, it could be elemental. A lot of the native lands have elementals on them, and elementals can be very dangerous. They can also not bother you at all. It all depends on the elemental and what they want to do, really. There are ways to get rid of them and everything like that. I can go into that on another show. We don't have a ton of time on this one. So maybe I'll do an entire show on elementals sometime. But I think it's an interesting dynamic that you could have something that is attached to the land or the house, but not necessarily attached to the people, but because the people are there, they're kind of getting the brunt of the negative energy and the attacks. Another thing I thought was super interesting was how they described how it almost felt like the darkness and the evil kind of just rolled in down the mountain with the darkness. So once it went from daytime to nighttime, it became more sinister and more dark there, if that makes sense. Like they could feel the negative energy. Now, some of that might have been a little psychosomatic because you have, you know, when it gets darker, it's creepier, and everybody knows that. That's why a lot of paranormal teams will do their filming and stuff at night, because it adds that creep factor to everything. You usually don't see broad daylight investigations because they're creepy, but I've done broad daylight investigations, and I can tell you that you do get activity in the day, and you do get activity with the lights on. You don't always have to have the lights off. You get just as much activity sometimes with the lights on. Now, there are cases where if you turn the lights off, it'll get more active. Usually that's in places where it's not usually lit up. So that's kind of what the spirits are used to, so that's what they like better. But in some locations that are lit pretty regularly, I mean, you can get good responses and good activity with all the lights on. So there's no real reason to be in the dark other than the creep factor in most cases. But anyway, I've talked long enough. I want to throw over to Old Boy, and I want to get his opinion on those couple things and anything else that stood out for him from the interview. So Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
I believe that places could be cursed from, like you were saying, Indian ritual burial sites, any burial sites pretty much. It matters what part of if it's in Montana, it could be Indian burial rites, or it could be from wars they had, or cursed land. I believe there's cursed land. We've talked about this in other shows. I think that's what it is, cursed land, or it's Indian burial grounds, or they got cursed. The people, like, if you guys ever seen the movie The Witch, it talks about that. It's the place is cursed where they're at, and it ends up being cursed land, and the witch comes, and, you know, if you guys seen the movie, I don't want to get into it because it's an R-rated movie and we have to be PG, but it talks a little bit about how the land was cursed and stuff wouldn't grow, and it's just, I believe that. I believe there's just bad parts. There's people who do certain things, and if they're in a certain area, especially there, like witches lived in the middle of the forest. And I'm not saying all witches, so don't think I'm going after, but there's some people who do good magic or bad magic. Magic isn't good or bad. What it is the person using it. They either go on the right or the left side. They use it to hurt people or they use it to help people. That's what people, you're using there. It is in some sense, but you're supposed to help people, not hurt people. And there's people who, and this is with any religion, pagan, whatever, Christian, whatever you want to go, there's always good and bad in everything. What I'm trying to say. And there's some people who were doing things to hurt people. Like, say you wanted somebody cursed. So you would go to this person and they would curse them, or something bad would happen to them, or they die, or they give them a disease or something. And they would do bad things. And it would curse the place they were at. Say they were in a hut. That whole land was cursed right there. And I believe that. Now, with Indian burial grounds, people move under it and things happen. Like here in Apple Valley, there's a lot of that. A lot of things happen in the West. I think my old apartment, we were buried on that whole area where Indian burial ground was at. There's a lot of wars fought there. I believe there's a lot of that happens with, like, where by Gettysburg, there's a lot of people who have passed away. They've died or got shot or just died. And just a lot of tragedy has happened. And I believe that's what it was. Wherever they're at, there's a lot of tragedy. And it leaves its mark. And all that bad things that's happened, people getting hurt, killed, all that builds up and it just stays there. Now, with somebody with a generational curse, their family gets cursed, or the whole town can be cursed. Say they killed somebody who was falsely accused, and that happened a lot with the witch trials, and say they got cursed before they were killed, and it could curse the whole land. I've heard that happen. Like Massachusetts is supposedly cursed. The whole Salem especially was supposed to be cursed because some of the stuff they did, people cursed them. So the whole land, the whole place could be cursed, their whole families. I believe that. I believe very much in that. I believe if you want to hurt somebody, you can. And it's not just go out and just hurt them like regular. You don't have to have people know. I think you can use spells on them. You can do things. You can ask certain demons to help you if you believe that. And I think they will. And it's just doing bad things to anybody. You shouldn't do it. I know people out there, I'm just saying this, I hope you listening to me, this because you know how I am. I'm just so people realize this. I am not for hurting people. I mean, we all have to defend ourselves, an eye for an eye. I believe that. Trust me, I do believe that. But I don't believe just to get back at somebody like that. Because there's just so much damage you can do. And think about it. I know people make you mad because I always see a lot of, especially on TikTok, I see people doing rituals and doing stuff on people, curses back. You're not supposed to be doing that because it can come back to you. And you're going to get, if you believe in karma, a lot of people do, it's coming back to you fold. When you do bad to people, you're going to pay a price. I don't care what anybody says. So I'm just saying that. I see a lot of that. And I wanted to say that because because this was a long interview, so I didn't have much to say, but I wanted people to know that. So there you go, James. That's my opinion.
Thank you, brother. I always find it interesting that people will go on social media or video kind of apps like a TikTok or a YouTube or whatever, and they will do stuff like that. They'll try to put on curses and do spell work and all that kind of stuff, like on social media in front of the world. To me, that never made a whole lot of sense, because let's take the religious aspect out of it for a moment, because we all know I'm a Christian. You know how I feel about it. But that just doesn't seem like a smart idea at all on multiple fronts. One, if you have a job and you work somewhere and your employer sees you doing that dumb stuff, I'm sure they're going to have an opinion on it, and it might end up costing you your job. And you might say, well, that's crazy, but I know people that have been fired for stuff that they put on social media that wasn't even about the place they worked. But the place they worked at didn't like what they put, and so they ended up getting canned. So you have that. Two, what if the person that you're trying to curse sees the video of you trying to curse them? Now, obviously, if you're on video trying to curse them, that probably means that you're not tough enough to go up and actually do anything to the person in person. So you're hiding behind a camera and you're doing your little voodoo hootie woody woody woo, look at me, I'm a magic man stuff, and you're probably gonna get your ass whooped. I mean, I know if I saw somebody doing that and trying to put a curse on me or some stupid stuff like that on me when I'm scrolling through TikTok, if I know that person, I just might go pay them a visit. I mean, because that ain't cool. You know, I never understood that. That doesn't make any sense. If you're going to do stuff like that, which I don't think you should, because you're going to pay a price, like Old Boy said, and not just in this world, after this life, you're definitely going to pay a price. So you shouldn't be doing it in the first place. But if you're somebody that's doing that kind of stuff, to me, it would make a lot more sense that you'd want to do that in private. That way the person you're cursing doesn't know that you're the one that cursed them. I mean, that's just dumb. But I don't know what I really expect, to be honest with you. I mean, these are the same kind of people that are on there eating Tide Pods and pouring ice and salt in their hand and all kinds of dumb stuff. The amount of dumb things that people do on social media and these trends that come up is outstandingly crazy. I mean, it's just nuts, you know? And I get a kick out of it, some of it. But that's one thing. I don't understand that at all. I don't get it. The second thing I would say is at least we know from this interview. Now keep in mind, these are the people that were on the show that went and actually performed the exorcism. So we know that from them that this isn't one of those fake TV shows. And that's good. Because there's a lot of that going on too, where you have these paranormal shows and they're faking stuff and it's complete BS and they're just doing it for the money. At least we know that the things that happened on the show actually happened. Father Ross said that himself, out of his own mouth, that everything that happened, that they showed, happened. So it's not like they're making stuff up and just pretending. We know that this was a real case. I also, and this might make some people mad, I don't know, but I also have a hell of a lot of respect for Olivine and for Father Ross for being honest about stuff, saying that they didn't know for sure if it was an attachment, that they thought it might have been the location more than anything else, maybe the house, maybe the land. I mean, that takes some guts to do that. I mean, because you got to think, they're on the show, right? And when you're on a show like that, there's things that go along with that. You know, some shows make you sign NDAs, which are non-disclosure agreements. Some shows can sue the hell out of you if you go against what they say. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that goes with shows like that, just so the audience understands. So for them to come out and be honest about it and say, hey, look, you know, we did it. We went and we performed the ritual. We didn't have a whole lot of time to really investigate and find out exactly what was going on. We kind of just did a diagnostic exorcism. And for people that don't know what that is, that's basically where you're going in and you're just doing an exorcism, even if you don't know there's a demon, just in case there is. And by doing the process of the exorcism, you're kind of going to have things manifest and you're going to be able to understand what's going on better because you're doing it. For them to admit that they're doing that and not go along with the hype and say, oh, it was the worst thing in the world I've ever seen. There was demons everywhere. They were jumping out windows and setting things on fire. You know, to not exaggerate it, just to be honest. That shows guts, that shows honor, and that shows a level of integrity that I think we should all strive for. So that's my opinion on it. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I love you guys, and I'm going to throw back over to Old Boy really quickly so that he can give his final shout-outs, and then we will wrap.
Thank you, brother. I want to thank everybody on Parax Radio on Sundays and Tuesday nights for the Best Of show. You guys want to check out our stuff on James Hershey's YouTube page, you know where to go. He'll tell you where to go. You want some merchandise, he'll tell you where to go and get that. Shirts, COVID masks, all kinds of cool stuff. You guys want to check out our books, you can check out my book, Demon Wars, Volume 1, The Empty Chair. It's at Barnes & Noble, or you can get it on ebook at, there's 10 other places. Apple Books, Vino, I think it is, and a couple other places. Check it out. It's out everywhere other than Amazon. I'm still waiting for that. So I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Misfits, sugar ladies, monster lovers, demon hunters, I love you, and blessed be.
The YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. That's where everything is. You'll find every episode of Staring. You'll find every episode of Tales from the Abyss. You'll find every episode of the Paranormal News. It's all there. It's all free. Please go and subscribe. Enjoy it. There's over 1,000 videos there, so there's tons of cool content. That's shameless plug number 1. Shameless plug number 2. Check out our pages. We got a ton of them on Facebook. We got my personal page. We got Old Boy's personal page, James Ash. We've got the Vapor page, which is the East Coast team for Tales from the Abyss. We have the Tales from the Abyss team. We also have the Shadows Pit Paranormal team page. So there's a bunch of pages there you can go and check out and like. And then check us out both on TikTok. We just started doing this TikTok thing. We're putting a lot of evidence on there. And I don't know, we're kind of getting addicted. It's kind of fun. So if you're on TikTok and you want to follow us, give us a follow. I'm James Hershey Jr., I think, or horror author James Hershey Jr. or something like that. You'll find me. And Old Boy is Old Boy 1313, I think it is. So go and follow us and shoot us a message or a comment or something. Let us know you like the show. With that being said, guys, I love you. I appreciate you. And I will catch you on the next one. Until I speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you. And so do we. Bye-bye.
All these voices